On 13 May 1954, Chinese middle school students gathered to protest against the National Service Ordinance. More than 24 people were injured and 48 students were arrested. The law mandated that all Singaporean citizens between the ages of 18 to 20 to register for part-time national service. This was in view of the British government's plan to maintain rule in Singapore after the Japanese occupation. Since then,
whoever governs Singapore must have that iron in him.
Singapore has gained independence, and we have formed diplomatic ties with over 150 countries. Why then is the national service still around?
The primary reason for enlistment into the SAF must remain to train a soldier who is able to defend Singapore, to repel if not defeat an enemy who wants to invade our country.
It is evident that the Singapore government views the country's defense as a matter of great importance. In 2022 alone, they spent a total of $11.4 billion on its military, which is significantly more than its neighbouring countries. Despite its importance, many Singaporean men today resent and criticize the national service, sharing the sentiments of the Chinese middle school students back when it was first introduced. To figure out why this is so, we first need to look at how the national service operates in Singapore. Pre-enlistment. The pre-enlistment process consists of submitting the required documents and doing medical screenings. Individuals will be assigned a physical employment standard, PES for short, based on their medical conditions. The PES will be used to determine vocations for the enlistees. Basic military training, commonly known as BMT, is where recruits learn the fundamentals of being a soldier. This includes undergoing the IPPT, an individual physical proficiency test, navigating the SOC, a standard obstacle course, completing a 24 km route march, and learning grenade throwing, among other activities. BMT is typically held at the training centre on Pulau Tekong. Of those in mono intake, it takes place at various camps across Singapore. BMT lasts 9 weeks but may vary based on the individual's PES status. Further training. Servicemen are assigned to one of three services: the Singapore Armed Forces, Singapore Police Force, or the Singapore Civil Defence Force, each with various vocations. They may also opt for command school to become officers or specialists, with further training for their assigned roles. This period lasts for another 3 to 6 months. Unit. After completing the further training, servicemen will be assigned to a unit, where they will serve for the rest of their active service. The experience is vastly different for each individual, but typical tasks will include physical training, field exercises, and standby duties. After 2 years of serving, they will reach the operationally ready date, which signifies the completion of their national service. Now let's touch on the issues. Two years is undoubtedly a long time and would pose as a hindrance for many men, be it in his career, education, or life in general. The additional time needed to enter the workforce for men would put them at a major disadvantage compared to their female counterparts and peers in countries without conscription, often leading to an experience gap and slower career progressions. When compared globally, Singapore is one of the few countries that has mandatory military service without being at risk of war. Among these few countries, Singapore has one of the longest commitment periods. It's important to note that these 2 years essentially go to waste, as they primarily involve military rigor. The experience and knowledge gained are unlikely to be applicable in other aspects of life. To add to the problem, the pay given to servicemen is ridiculously low, averaging just about $880 per month. Considering the high cost of living in Singapore, this amount barely covers the needs of those who may have to support their families financially. The pay is labelled as an allowance, and in the words of Minister Josephine Teo, service for the country cannot be measured in dollars and cents. However, this claim is quickly disproven by the fact that pay increases significantly for those in higher ranks. Moonlighting is also restricted, effectively prohibiting servicemen from earning a decent living during their 2 years of service. Given the demands placed on servicemen, this situation is entirely unjust. Living conditions in the camps are nothing special, offering only the most basic necessities. While there's little to fault here, there have been claims that certain camps are particularly difficult to stay in. Moreover, there have been reports of fatalities during national service, often related to training accidents or medical emergencies, which is to be expected in any military training. More concerning, however, is the number of injuries documented on forums over the years, with some individuals alleging that their injuries were not promptly addressed or were taken lightly, potentially leading to lifelong effects.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, why do you hate young people so much? You're making us go to the army, you're making us...
No, you'll have a choice. You'll have a choice.
I've volunteered all my life and
Then you will love it. You will love it.
Why do I have to do it again when I'm finally coming out of education?
In June of 2024, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak proposed reintroducing national service. Although the proposal did not come into fruition, it sparked significant debate over the concept, which leads to a critical point. How can Singapore's own national service system be improved? One possible improvement is to enlist women into the army, not necessarily in combat roles, but in support and administrative positions. This will promote gender equality and enhance the overall efficiency of the military. However, given that Defence Minister Dr. Ng has opposed this idea,
now would far outweigh the benefits. Over the long term, it will impose a great cost, not only on women themselves, but also on their families, children and spouses, and society as a whole. Is that cost justified to send a signal or to reverse stereotypes? From the government's perspective, no. I think
it's unlikely to happen anytime soon. Another suggestion is to replace allowances with actual salaries. While the government has been incrementally increasing the allowances, they still fall short of fair compensation. Transitioning into salaries will provide soldiers with financial stability and encourage better performance. Reducing the service duration could also be considered. Shortening it to 18 months or even a year could still provide adequate training while minimizing disruption to the lives of soldiers. These are just some of the many suggestions brought up over the years. Ultimately, national service should strike a balance between effectively defending the country while being fair to those who serve.